Shalom, Israel. It's your brother Marcus G back with yet another Truth for Thought. First and foremost, I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. I know you all saw the video. We are still asking in regards to Princess Joniah. If you know of her whereabouts or any information leading to Princess Joniah, you can find in the description who to contact and how to contact them. Also, I want to, let me go ahead and share my screen now while I'm explaining this. I want to ask of the nation again on behalf of yet another of our very own. I want to ask of the nation that you all be charitable. Last week, you should have heard me mention the request of me for you all to keep Queen Valerie in your prayers. Well, this week I'm asking that you be charitable towards our beloved sister. And I want to get a couple of scripture with it so that you all can understand that first, I want you to know I'm not asking of anything that I won't do myself. I too am being charitable towards Queen Valerie. But I want you all to understand that not only that I'm not asking that you do something that I would do, but do something that we are to do. So I want to get a couple of scriptures. I want to start by going to 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 7. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 7. And it reads, "And to godliness, brotherly kindness," and that's male, female, molecular, so that's brotherly and sisterly kindness, "and to brotherly kindness, charity." All right. I want to go from there on. I want to get 1 Corinthians 16 and 14. 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and verse 14. And it reads, "Let all your things be done with charity." All right. And I want to get two more. One of them you'll find on her GoFundMe, but I definitely want to get these two verses as well. The next one is in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8. And it reads, "And above all things, Israel," this is to you, Israel, "above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins." All right. And the last one, and of course, this is the one that you can find on her actual GoFundMe page, is from Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 16. And it reads, "But to do good and to communicate, forget not. For with such sacrifices, God is well pleased." So I ask again, Israel, and I know I've asked of you before, and each time I've asked, I myself have been charitable. I'm asking that you be charitable to a sister of ours. She is in a royal family. I'm asking, Israel, that you be charitable to our own. I'm asking that you show that brotherly and sisterly kindness. Now, of course, I know it's the Sabbath. You can't do that today. However, I am asking that of you. If the Most High has you in a place where you are able and it be His will to move upon you to do so, please, by all means, just not today, as it is the Sabbath, but by all means, the link to her GoFundMe will be in the description. Again, I wouldn't ask if it was something that I wouldn't do myself. And I do for all my brothers and sisters. As I can, I do show that brotherly kindness and sisterly kindness. So with that, now let's get into the title. And the title is simply Sorrow. And it's kind of an expansion upon last week, because last week I asked, what are you preparing for? And the answer to that question was one of two things. Either you're preparing for salvation or you're preparing for the second death. If you are of the nation of Israel, I'm speaking directly to the nation of Israel. So if you are preparing for salvation, today's truth for thought is going to be a very surreal truth for thought. Because with preparing for salvation comes sorrow. So I want everybody to think back when they first got into the truth. And if you're new in this truth, even you. And I want you to think, when you got into this truth, you should have came into the understanding that there are some things that you're going to have to do. There are some things that you're probably going to endure. Remember that word, endure. So I'm going to speak on behalf of myself. And I'm sure that I know that there are others that share this. When I came into the truth, I came into the truth and said, I'm going to follow a blueprint. That blueprint is Yahweh. So I want to go, and if you would turn with me in your 1611 King James Version with the Apocrypha, because I want to look at when Yahweh was prophesied about, and I'm setting a base right. I'm starting with setting my base right here. So if you would, let's go to Isaiah chapter 53. And again, this was when it was prophesied of the coming of Yahweh. And we're going to get verses 1 through 3. And I want you to still keep in mind, this is the blueprint. This is who you want to walk like, who you want to talk like, who you want to model yourself after in this truth. Isaiah 53, verse 1. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? What it's asking is, who will believe this prophecy? And to whom is basically the Son of the Most High revealed? Verse 2, for he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. So it's basically saying he's going to look like an ordinary man. He's going to look like an ordinary child. He's going to grow up and look just like an ordinary Israelite. Let's read a little further. And verse 3 is as far as I want to go. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrow. And I want to stop right there. I'm going to finish the verse, but it's literally saying the blueprint was a man of sorrow. So when I came into the truth, again, I'm just reflecting on myself. I said that this was the blueprint. If I'm going to follow the blueprint, the likelihood is that a lot of the things that affected him negatively or positively, quite naturally, might affect me in the same manner, and others like me in the same manner. And I'm reading where he was a man of sorrow and acquainted with grief, and we hid at it with our faces from him. Now, these are Israelites. They're basically saying there are Israelites that are going to reject even the Most High, and it happened. Again, this was when he was prophesied about. As he walked, when he came, when he was here and walked the earth, those things truly happened. And with he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Those are types of sorrows. Those are some of the sorrows that he went through. His own people, some of his own people. I'm willing to, based on what the Bible says in Zephaniah, I'm willing to say 2/3 of his own people. And I covered that just last week. Despised him. All right. So I see, we see that he's a man of sorrows, man of griefs. I want to go now and look at an account that I've looked at before of when a mother brought her 2 sons to do the exact same thing that I understood as I came in the truth that I was going to do. Now, quite naturally, these 2 sons in that time were able to walk with him and follow that blueprint. All right. But I want to look at this particular account because there are some things that are in the dialogue that I definitely considered. And whether you know it or not, if you're in this truth, you had to have considered this. So I want to go to Matthew 20. Matthew 20, we're going to the New Testament. Matthew 20, and we're going to get verses 20 through 23. Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, and this is Yahushua speaking unto her, what wilt thou? Meaning, what is your will? What exactly are you seeking? She saith unto him, grant that these my 2 sons may sit, the one on the right hand and the other on the left in thy kingdom. So she's saying, will you allow my sons to be with you all the way up to the kingdom? Verse 22, But Jesus answered and said, and this was Yahweh's answer, ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? Now, Yahweh poses a question, a very serious question, a very real question that applies to anyone in regards to coming into the truth. Because you got to understand who your blueprint is. And your blueprint was a man of sorrow. And the blueprint literally asks, are you able to drink of the cup which I shall have to drink? Are you able and willing to deal with any and all sorrows that may come with you deciding to be in the truth? All right. They say unto him, we are able. Once they made up their mind, we are able to do the law, statutes, and commandments. We are able to go through these sorrows. They made that decision. I made that same type of decision. If you're in this truth, you made the same type of decision. Verse 23, and he saith unto them, ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared of my Father. So what he's saying is, you've made your decision. You're in this truth. And because you're in this truth, you will suffer some of these sorrows, these trials, tribulations, and persecution. You'll be baptized in the word. I've covered that several times. So it's my beloved brothers, Mike Maliss, King Mike Maliss, King Yada, King Young Gideon. But as far as where you sit, that is not my place. That will be decided by the Father. So in this account, and again, I'm going to self-reflect, I see myself, and when I was in that position, when I came to the agreement or the understanding, I'm willing to accept any and all sorrows, and I want you to listen to this, Israel, up to and including death. The first death, I accepted that. Now, last week I asked you, what are you preparing for? And we saw it was salvation or the second death. But salvation is not for the vessel. Salvation is for the soul. So I want you to be real serious with yourself right now and ask yourself, are you really in the truth? If you are, then you're saying you're willing to drink of that cup of any and all trials, tribulations, persecutions, even temptation. up to and including death. But that would be the first death. All right. I'm saying that because there are some things that are going on today. And I'm going to go to these same three precepts I've used several times in regards of a very direct yet brief description of what's going on right now today. But I want you to listen to the very last one, the very end of the very last one. So I'm going to start with Matthew chapter 24. And we're going to get verses 6 through 8. Again, I want you to understand that we're talking about sorrow. And sorrows can come in many shapes, forms, and fashions. They can be in temptations. They can be in trials. They can be in tribulations. They can be in persecutions. Matthew 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Verse 8. All these are the beginnings of sorrow. All right. I've done a lesson on Jacob's trouble. And in Jacob's trouble, you will see about temptations, trials, tribulations, and persecutions. All are types of sorrow. All right, so let's go now to Mark 13. But again, all these things that are mentioned in verse 6 and verse 7, those are things that are happening right now. Verse 8 is something that is really, truly happening right now to Israelites. There are sorrows happening. There have been sorrows, have always been happening, but when it literally, when the word literally goes out of its way to mention it, that means things are going to get worse. These sorrows are going to get worse. The repercussions for some of these sorrows are going to be worse. Again, up to and including death, the first death, the demise of the vessel. All right, so now I want to go to Mark 13. Mark chapter 13. And we're going to get verses 7 and 8. Mark 13, verses 7 and 8. And they read, And when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs to be. But the end shall not be yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrow. So all these earthquakes in diverse places, the nation against nation, the kingdom against kingdom, the famines, the pestilence, all of this is happening right now. But these are the beginnings, yet again, it's stressed again. These are the beginnings of sorrow. So now I want to go to Luke chapter 21. Still in the New Testament. Luke chapter 21 and verses 10 through 12. Again, these are all precepts to one another. I've used them several times before, and they're still applicable because this is happening. There was a time when this was prophecy. This is happening now. Verse 10, then he said unto them, again, it's all in red, it's Yahushua. Yahushua spoke those in Matthew 24 and Mark 13. He's speaking this as well. Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. Verse 12, but before all these, they shall have their hands on you, and persecute you, delivering you up to synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony, because these are times of sorrow. These are times of, these will be, as Matthew and Mark, Matthew 24, verse 8, the beginning of sorrows. Mark 13 and 8, the beginning of sorrows. So I want to go from that because I want to talk about a specific sorrow that happened in modern times. And this same sorrow happened, and this happened to an Israelite in modern times. This same sorrow happened to Israelites of old. But you're going to notice a distinct difference in what happened in the modern time and what happened in the time of old. And I'm bringing the both of them up to show that there's nothing new under the sun, that this Bible is that real. This truth is that real. The Most High's word is that real. Also, in one instance, the result is different than in the instance of the other. However, I want you to understand, Israel, with these sorrows, the result can be up to and including the demise of one's vessel or the demise of this body. All right. So I want to go and I want to look at a law. So let's go to Leviticus 11 and 7. And it reads, and the swine, though he divided the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. And I want to get a precept to that. So let's go to Deuteronomy. We'll go to Deuteronomy 14 and 8. 14 and 8. And it reads, and the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean to you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. So we're not even supposed to touch swine, even if it's dead. All right, it's that unclean to us. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why are you reading this particular law? Well, in both these accounts, this is the device that is used to cause a sorrow. Both the account that happened in modern times, as well as the account of old. So for the account that happened of modern times, there's a video I want to share with you. I want you to understand Israel. My beloved brother, King Mike Maliss, he actually spoke about this exact incident, this exact account, in a lesson that he did as well. But seeing that last week I asked, what are you preparing for? I wanted to get a firm understanding within Israel that each individual Israelite within yourself, you understand that with preparing for salvation, such things can and will come about to you. These sorrows, which can result in even your demise. So although the title of this Truth for Thought is Sorrow, I almost titled it, as an Israelite in the truth, what are you willing to have the demise of your vessel for? Are you willing for the truth to allow the demise of your vessel, with the understanding that what you're fighting for is the salvation of your soul, which has nothing to do with your vessel? So with that, I'm going to let you all watch this video. As soon as it's over, I'll be right back.
Coaches are accused of forcing a student athlete to eat pepperoni pizza despite his religion forbidding pork. News 5's Emily Hamilton was at that meeting and has the latest.
Courtney, the Canton City School District Board of Education deliberated for about an hour and a half before ultimately making the announcement that head coach Marcus Watley and 6 of his assistants have been relieved of their coaching duties following that incident in question. The future of the McKinley High School football team is headed in a new direction as of Thursday evening.
The identified coaches engaged in actions that constituted inappropriate, demeaning, and divisive behavior in a misguided attempt to instill discipline in the student athletes.
As former head coach Marcus Watley and 6 of his assistants were relieved of all coaching duties at a special called school board meeting, and current athletic director Antonio Hall was named the interim head football coach for the upcoming season.
We believe that the individual we hired as the interim head coach is the right individual to lead our football team back to where it should be.
The incident in question happened in a school gym and was captured by school district cameras, according to Superintendent Jeff Talbert.
It was inappropriate, it was divisive, demeaning. And again, it's not aligned to our professional, the standards we hold our professionals to.
An attorney for the underage student athlete says McKinley High School football coaches forced the student to eat a pepperoni pizza in front of his team as a punishment for not showing up to practice, which violated his Hebrew Israeli religious faith. Attorney Peter Patakis, retained by Watley and his family hours before the Thursday board meeting, says his client was trying to teach the student athlete a lesson.
Marcus brings back the pizza. Oh, it has pepperoni on it. I don't eat pork. I'll go get you some chicken fingers. No, it's okay. I'll just eat this pizza. So we took the pepperoni off and he ate the pizza.
Watley's attorney says the student was never forced or coerced to eat the pizza.
This young man had every opportunity to get up and leave the room at any time.
Administrators and school board members ultimately denied Watley's attorney's request for a week-long extension to the investigation and vowed Thursday to begin a new chapter for the McKinley High School football team.
The events that occurred on that day, right, that was orchestrated and led by our head coach and the 6 other assistants was inappropriate, it was demeaning, and it was a misguided attempt at enforcing accountability.
Former head coach Marcus Watley and 3 of his assistants hold other positions within the school district, and it's unclear yet what disciplinary action, if any, will be taken against them off the football field. Watley's attorney also said it's unclear at this time if he plans to file litigation against the school district for his termination. Reporting in Canton, Emily Hamilton, News 5.
All right, so as I said, sorrows can come in many forms. Temptations, trials, tribulations, and persecutions. What you just saw was a sorrow that a young Israelite prince that knew he was an Israelite. He was tempted, and then there was a tribulation or a trial secondary to that temptation, which are all sorrows. You saw the result of it. People lost their jobs. But he endured. And again, I said that word earlier. I want you to keep that word in mind. We will revisit it. But that was a modern account of a sorrow that was in the times of these wars and rumors of war, in the time of a pestilence in CV-19, in the time of great earthquakes in diverse places, which I've covered in other Truth for Thoughts of the past. That was in the time of Matthew 24, 6 through 8, Mark 13, 7 through 8, and Luke 21, 10 through 12. So now I want to go and look at an account of old in regards to a family of Israel. So if you would please turn again in your 1611 King James Version of the Bible. This time we're going to go to, if I can get my screen to work with me. This time we're going to go to the Apocrypha. Okay? This time we're going to go to 2 Maccabees, chapter 7. And we're reading the whole chapter. All right? 2 Maccabees in chapter 7. And we're reading the whole chapter. Now, remember, I almost titled this, You chose to be in this truth. You chose to be righteous. You chose to be as holy a people as the Most High said you are. And I ask that you be extremely real with yourself. And with that decision, I'm hoping that you took into account up to and including death, because now we're going to get an account and the result is a lot different. It's a whole lot different. But this is still a sorrow, and this can happen to you. All right. So 2 Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren, Israelites, with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law, which is why I went over Leviticus 11 and 7 and Deuteronomy 14 and 8. Again, it's dealing with swine. Against the law to taste swine's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips. So they've already been whipped. Because they will not break this law to taste swine. All right. Verse 2. But one of them that spake first said thus, what wouldest thou ask or learn of us? We are ready to die, rather than to transgress the laws of our Father. Israel, I'm going to ask you again. Do you have the faith that they are about to exhibit? When you made the decision that you are preparing for salvation, as we covered last Sabbath, were you also making the decision saying to yourself, up to and including death? Because as you see, the very first one that spake said, prior to transgressing the law, we are prepared, we are ready to die. Verse 3, then the king, being in a rage, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot. My beloved Mike Maliss did a couple of lessons on the Delectable Negro. Pans and cauldrons, they are about to be cooked alive. There is nothing new under the sun. This is of old. And prior to the slave trade that is mentioned in the Delectable Negro. Verse 4, which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first. So because he said, we are prepared to die before transgressing the law, the king had his tongue cut out first. And to cut off the utmost parts of his body. So they cut off his arms and his legs. He's still alive. But he's going through a sorrow. And I want you to really think about, and I'm going to paint this picture. Not only is he going through the sorrow of these things that are happening to him, his 6 brethren and his mother are witnessing the whole thing. No different than when slaves were first brought here to Babylon. And the youngest son got to watch. He had the sorrow of watching his father be castrated. He had the sorrow of watching his eldest brother killed because the enemy felt this was too strong. He looked too strong. He was a threat to us. So understand the sorrow that not only he's going through, but his brethren and his mother at the same time as they get to witness this happen. Let me continue on. The rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. I was just finishing verse 4. Verse 5. Now, when he was thus maimed in all his members, meaning all his members are cut off, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire, and to be fried in the pan. And as the vapor of the pan was for a good space dispersed, they exhorted one another with the mother to die manfully, saying thus. I want to repeat what these sons of the mother did, and it's right here at the end. They exhorted one another along with the mother to die manfully. And you're going to see all of these brothers weren't of the age of a man, as you know, today. Saying thus, the Lord God looketh upon us. And in truth, there is no irony or coincidence that that particular word is used in this verse. There's no irony or coincidence that I said, when you chose to be in this truth, what are you preparing for? And that, again, is something that I covered just last week. It's no coincidence or irony that I said that I started my base with covering Yahweh, the blueprint, that if you're in this truth, you should have chosen to be the blueprint for you, and that is a man of sorrow in this truth. And in truth have comfort in us. As Moses in his song, which witnessed to their faces, declared, saying, and he shall be comforted in his servants. They know they serve the Most High. Because up to and including death, they are upholding the law, statutes, and commandments. They will not taste of that swine. Let me keep going. So when the first was dead, after this number, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head with the hair, they asked him, wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body? And I want to stop again and reflect back on, I want you to remember some of the things that were mentioned in that book, The Delectable Negro. And I say again, the same thing that Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. And my beloved brother, King Mike Maliss, did multiple lessons on multiple parts of that book. I will have the description of them in the link. But I distinctly remember filleting. And this is a type of filleting. They literally pulled the skin off of his head with his hair. They asked him, wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body? Verse 8. But he answered in his own language and said, no. Just that simple. No. Wherefore he also received the next torture in order as the former did. So they cut off all his arms and legs. And they cooked him. They cooked him. Verse 9. And when he was at the last gas. So this Israelite, one of our brethren of old, in his last breath, he endured. That's another thing. People don't understand what enduring means. People think that just enduring one thing means I'm done. No, he endures to the end. Remember that. I can't stress to you enough. We will revisit that. And when he was at the last gasp, he said, Thou like a fury, takest us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall raise us up, who have died for his law unto everlasting life. I'm going to ask you again, Israel, which I asked you last week. What are you preparing for? This week I'm going to ask, and to what cost? To what cost? Verse 10, after him was the third made a mocking stock. Again, while this is going on, those of the brethren who have not been fried, quote unquote, fried in the pan, they're witnessing it. But they decided way back when the first one, if you recall, when he was fried, they would die manfully. They made that decision way back then. But they're still witnessing. They're going through the sorrow of witnessing my brother getting cooked alive. They're dismembering him and they're cooking him alive. They're cutting their tongues out and they're cooking them alive. But they will not break the law. They will not transgress the law. To their death, they will not sin. I was at verse 10. After him was the third made a mocking stock. And when he was required, listen to this, he put out his tongue. And that right soon, holding forth his hands manfully. So he as they retrieve him, he holds his tongue out of his mouth and holds his hands out like that, manfully, and said courageously, verse 11, and said courageously, these I had from heaven, and for his laws I despised them. He's literally saying, as divisive as you may be to try to use the members that the Most High of heaven gave me, at this moment, since you want to be divisive and use them in that manner, oh, I despise them now. Here, you can have them. And from him, I hope to receive them again. So what he's saying is, because I despise them because you're trying to use them divisively, I'm hoping to be in that elect, that 1/3. We went over it in Zephaniah just last week. He's prepared for salvation to the point that he said, I'm hoping to receive them yet again. Insomuch that the king, verse 12, insomuch that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage. He wowed them. He made them say, wow. For that he nothing regarded the pain. So now the king and these people, these men of his that he has frying these Israelites, they are simply wowed by these special people and the courage of these special people, these chosen people, these peculiar people. I say that because I've stressed that several times. Several times. And these are not every people. These people are you, Israel. Let me keep on going. Verse 13. Now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the four in like manner. And I want to stress again, I want to keep this picture painted for you the whole time. That's four of them. These other three brothers and the mother are witnesses. They're on them. Again, no different than when slaves were brought here to Babylon. And what they had to witness of their brethren, of their father. I know the example I gave, I said the youngest male watched his father get castrated. The youngest male watched his eldest brother just all out killed. The same youngest male watched as his mother was raped repetitively. Imagine such sorrow. Let me keep on. Verse 14. And this is in regards to the four. So when he was ready to die, he said thus, it is good being put to death by me, to look for hope from God, to be raised up again by him. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. Wait a minute. In the fourth last gasp of life, he's saying it's good that this is happening. But I want you to understand why he's saying it's good, because he understands that we being separated from the tear. He understands that he has salvation. While he tells that king and his men, as for thee, there is no resurrection for you. Let me keep going. Afterward, they brought the fifth also and mangled him. So they mangled him. Let's keep going. Verse 16. Then looked he unto the king. This is the fifth. Every one of them thus far, they've said something to this king. And it has all been that they are standing on the word. They standing in this truth. They standing on the laws, statutes, and commandments, as they are not done away with, as they have prepared for salvation, up to and including the demise of their vessel, or the first death. Then looked he unto the king and said, Thou hast power over men. Thou art corruptible. Thou doest what thy will. I got to stop right there because that's what's going on right now today. People doing whatever the fuck they want to do. Whatever their will is to do, they're doing just that. Let me keep going. Yet think not that our nation, he's talking about his whole nation, the nation of Israel, as these were Israelites. How do we know? They won't transgress a law. The law was given to Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel. So he's speaking of only one type of people, not everybody. Yet think not that our nation is forsaken by God. He's speaking for all of us, Israel. He's speaking to all of us, Israel, from way back then. Understand, Israel, we are not forsaken. He was very displeased with us. This is true. But not once has he truly forsaken us. Let me keep going. But abide a while and behold his great power. Now, I know he's talking to the king, but I promise you, it feels like he's speaking to me. I don't know about you. He's speaking to his nation, and he's saying, but abide a while, just endure. Just endure, Israel. When these sorrows come, as they will come, as you are in the truth. Your blueprint was a man of sorrow. If it happened to him, any and everything that happened to him, you're subject to. If you are following him as a blueprint, if you follow Yahweh Shai as your blueprint, abide a while, endure, and behold his great power. How he will torment thee and thy seed. So now he's telling this heathen nation, this heathen nation's king, he will torment thee and thy seed. Now, if you follow me, you've heard me say vengeance is the Most High. He gonna deal with these heathen. This Israelite of old, he echoed the same sentiment. Let me keep going. Verse 18. After him also they brought the sixth, who being ready to die, he's already prepared to die. He had already prepared for salvation, and he's prepared to die. Said, be not deceived without cause. For we suffer these things for ourselves, having sinned against our God. So he reflects back to when our forefathers, when even before him, transgressed the law. Thus the curses were put in. for anybody, and I don't know how you can still feel this way, but for anybody who is under the impression, and I hate to use the word feel, it's it's a subjective word, and I like to stay objective. When you become subjective, you begin to give your own opinion. For those of you who have a understanding that the laws, statutes, and commandments are done away with, why then is he saying this? Why then is he saying, for we suffer these things for ourselves, having sinned or transgressed the law at some point in time? And again, he's reflecting on our forefathers against our God. Again, so this is only for Israelites. This is only for Israel. Israel, when you see these type of possessional pronouns, our, your, my, this is in regards to you, Israel. So this is our God, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we are suffering these things because way back some time ago, we transgressed the law against our God. Therefore, marvelous things are done unto us. Verse 19. But think not thou. So now he goes back to talking to this king. That takest in hand to strive against God, that thou shalt escape unpunished. So he's telling this king, you trying to make us transgress the law? That means you stand against our God. And don't you think for 1 second that you will escape unpunished. Now I want to go back and talk about these sorrows. There are going to be some temptation. There are going to be some trials, some tribulations, and some persecutions. The people or beings that are going to cause these things in the lives of righteous Israelites, they shall not escape the Most High, because the vengeance will be his. Let me keep going. Verse 20. But the mother was marvelous above all. She watched all 7. But the mother was marvelous above all, and worthy of honorable memory. For when she saw her 7 sons slain within the space of 1 day, she buried with a good courage because of the hope that she had in the Lord, because of the faith. That's what that is. That faith. That it's written, all you need is that in the size of a mustard seed. Let me keep going. Yea, she exhorted every one of them in her own language, filled with courageous spirits and stirring up her womanish thoughts with a manly stomach. She said unto them, so she did what you may read this in the Bible. She, as a woman, girded up her loins. Because she spoke up, just as all of her sons had agreed to when the first one came, manfully. She spoke up manfully. And she said this unto them, I cannot tell how ye came into my womb. For I neither gave you breath nor life. Neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you. So what she's doing is, although her son have been fried, mangled, killed before her very eyes, she's still speaking as if they're right there. Because these were words to those 7 sons. Verse 23. But doubtless the creator of the world, who formed the generations of man and found out the beginning of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath and life again, as ye now regard not your own selves for his law's sake. So the mother goes on to say, I didn't give you that breath. I didn't give you your limb. The Most High blessed me with you all. He blessed you all with the breath. He blessed you all with your members. But out of the mercy of the same being, of the Most High, it is my faith he will give you breath again. As you took no regard for, you were so committed to the truth and the laws and the statutes and commandments that you didn't regard those things on your own for his law's sake. Verse 24. Now Antiochus, thinking himself despised. So now King Antiochus he's feeling a certain way, for lack of better terms, and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech. He felt like what she just said is reproachful to him, whilst the youngest was yet alive. Did not only exhort him by words, so he didn't only talk crazy to him, but also assured him with oath that he would make him both a rich and happy man. So he's attempting to tempt the youngest of the brethren. That although he's a child right now, I will make you a rich and happy man if ye would turn from the law of his father. And that also he would take him for his friend and trust him with affairs. So what he's saying is, I'll make you a happy and rich man when you grow up, if you'll denounce the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. And then I want you to friend me. And I know it looks like I'm your enemy, but I want you to trust me with your affairs. Now, it is written about trusting your enemies. But this is the youngest, and we're going to see what he says to this gift. And you can also read about a gift in the Bible, as well as the bearer of said gifts. But let's keep going. And when he had exhorted her, verse 25, I'm sorry, I skipped verse 25. But when the young man would in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life. So the king, look at how desperate the king is. He feels like he's fighting a battle. He's fought several battles today with this family. He's lost every one of them. But he's so desperate just to win one of the battles. He offers a gift to the youngest. Then he talks crazy to the mother and asks the mother, go counsel your youngest. And I want you to tempt him, to further tempt him to take my gift and live. He doesn't even have to die today. All right, let me keep going. And when he, verse 26, and when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised him. So she promised the king that she would counsel her son. Right? Verse 27, but she bowing herself toward him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn. She starts laughing at him. She promises him, then she starts laughing. She spake in her country language on this manner. O my son, have pity upon me that bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee such 3 years, and nourished thee. So this little boy is 3 years old. This same 3-year-old, as we read earlier, hearkened to his gift not. So King Antiochus asked his mother, please speak with your son, because he don't have to die today. Just tell him to take what I'm asking. Just take the gift. I want to keep going. And nourished thee and brought thee up unto this age. Again, this is the age of 3. 3 years old. And endured the troubles of education. I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heaven and the earth and all that is therein, and consider that God made them of things that were not, and so was mankind made likewise. So what she's doing while she's speaking to her son away from Antiochus, as she promised she would speak to her son, she's reminding him of something. Again, he's already not hearkened to the king. At 3 years old, he's upholding the law, statutes, and commandments, seeing the sorrow of seeing his brothers put to death, for not hearkening unto the same thing. Verse 29. Listen to what the mother tells the youngest. Fear not this torment, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I might receive thee again in mercy with thy brethren. She promised Antiochus she'd counsel her son. She counseled her son. And what she told her son is, just like your brothers did, you have done. You have prepared yourself for salvation. And just like your brothers did, I beseech you to do this. Manfully, fear not this tormentor, and fear not the death, but take this death, that the Most High will have mercy on you, and you not see the second death, because you won't transgress the law of the Most High. Let me keep going. While she was yet speaking these words, the young man said, whom wait ye for? I will not obey the king's commandment, but I will obey the commandment of the law that was given unto our fathers by Moses. I want Israel, I want you to take a step back and look at this picture again. This is a 3-year-old prince speaking, sounding like a king in the making to me. He asked his mother while she was talking to him at 3 years old, who are you waiting for? I will not do what that king wants, what that tormentor wants me to do. I will not take his gift because I will not break the law of our forefathers. I will not break the law of the Most High. This young man was prepared. This prince was prepared for salvation and to the cause of his body's demise. Let me keep going. Verse 31, and thou that hast been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews shall not escape the hands of God. Again, I want to remind you, Israel, this is a 3-year-old prince speaking this to a quote-unquote king in King Antiochus. After telling his mom, and actually his mom was right there. He was literally actually speaking to Antiochus, but it was while his mom was talking to him. And he was asking Antiochus, who are you waiting? What are you waiting on, really? I'm not finna break the law. That's not finna happen. I'm not finna take your gift. Not that he's disregarding what his mom says, but he is willing, up to and including death, to not transgress the law of the Most High. Let me keep going. Verse 31, and thou that hast been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews shall not escape the hands of God, for we suffer because of our sins. This 3-year-old prince knows why his people have been cursed. Verse 33, and though the living Lord be angry with us a little while, listen to the wisdom of this is a 3-year-old prince. And though the living Lord be angry with us a little while for our chastening and correction, yet shall he be at one again with his servants. This is a 3-year-old prince declaring to a king, a grown man, a quote-unquote elected king of heathen, Antiochus, but sounding like a king himself, almost like he grew up from the age of 3, right before everybody that was there and witnessing eyes. This ain't a 3-year-old little boy. This dude 23. This dude 31. He's somewhere else. Let me keep going. But thou, and these are still his words to Antiochus, but thou, O godless man, and of all other most wicked, be not lifted up without a cause, nor puffed up with certain hopes, lifting up thy hand against the servants of God. I can't help but to ask Israel again, take a step back and understand who these words are coming from. This is a 3-year-old prince. For thou hast not yet escape the judgment of Almighty God, who seeth all things. I did a lesson. I did a truth for thought, and it was entitled, Our Great and Terrible Almighty God. This is a 3-year-old prince proclaiming the same thing. Let me keep going. Verse 36, for our brethren who now have suffered a short pain are dead under God's covenant of everlasting life. But thou, through the judgment of God, shalt receive just punishment for thy pride. I got to stop. I've mentioned in several Truth for Thoughts. My beloved brother Mike Maliss has mentioned in several of his lessons about who everlasting life is for. Because there's still the misconception how, and I say this every time, I don't know how they fuck this up, that everlasting life is for everybody. No, it is not. No, it is not. Only one nation is even eligible for it. And even then, they have to meet such qualifications. This young man meets those qualifications. This 3-year-old meets said qualifications. He is a righteous young man. He is showing he's doing the works, and he obviously has the faith. He meets the qualification. And my beloved brother has also done a lesson. My beloved brother Mike Maliss has also done a lesson on pride. I'm going to be in the description. Now, you're going to see the links to all of these lessons. Verse 37, but I, as my brethren, the youngest, is saying, just like all my elders, but I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the laws of our fathers, beseeching God that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation. Unto a whole nation. This young man understands to a thorough degree, not only about himself, but about his whole nation and the cursing of his whole nation. He has exhibited this again is another time in the speech he's making to Antiochus. And that thou by torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is God. You can read about that, where the heathen in a certain day, even they will profess there is but one living God, and it is the Most High. But let me keep on. Let me keep going. I might do a lesson just thinking about that. But let me keep going. And that in me and my brethren, the wrath of the Almighty, which is justly brought upon our nation. So he's even saying, the disappointment that the Most High has in my nation, it is just. His judgments are just. You can read that in the very same Bible that we're reading from right now. The wisdom in this 3-year-old, which is justly brought upon our nation, may cease. Verse 39, then the king, being in a rage, handled him worse than all the rest, and took it grievously that he was mocked. All the things that happened to his brethren were nothing in comparison to what Antiochus did to this 3-year-old prince. All before the eyes of the mother. She witnessed all of them demise, all of their bodies demise. Let me keep going. So this man, notice it refers to this 3-year-old as a man. This man died undefiled and put his whole trust in the Lord. All praises to the Lord. Just that 3-year-old. Just the youngest of those brethren alone. If that don't touch you a certain way, that was beautiful. Everything he said, and even the offering of his body, in hopes that the nation would not see more of what is. Having the faith in the Most High, he will be yet again all because he will not transgress. Let me keep going. Last of all, after the sons, the mother died. Let this be enough now to have spoken concerning the idolatrous feasts. And these were of these heathens. They were having these idolatrous feasts. And the extreme tortures. Israel, I know that when I read this, I know what my understanding was. It firmly, it was a reassurance of myself of what I am. Israel, I truly am willing to die. I really am. I've had accounts where I've walked up to armed people and took their gun from them to avoid them from messing their life up with no regard for this vessel of mine. Because I truly am preparing for salvation. I am hoping to be in the elect. I have faith. I do the works. I uphold the law, statutes, and commandments. And I have faith. Last week I asked, what are you preparing for? And this week, although the title of it is Sorrows, I'm asking, to what cost? And although it's titled Sorrow, because it is in regards to certain temptations, they attempted to tempt these people. these Israelites, these brethren and sisters of ours, they put forth a trial, tribulation. Antiochus talked crazy to them. That's a type of persecution. All these sorrows they witnessed in one day. In one day. A queen witnessed. Her princes, her babies, her princes, all taken away. All, she watched the demise of all of them, manfully so, and standing on the word in this truth, not only by the works, not only by not transgressing the law, but they also, before her very eyes, exhibited faith. And so did she. So Israel, I want to go back to what I was saying at the beginning of this truth song. If you're in this truth and you're following the blueprint of Yahweh Shah, understand even Yahweh Shah's vessel saw a demise. And if you're willing to drink of that cup, which should have been made with the decision of, I want to be in this truth. I want to be righteous. I am seeking salvation. Understand that sorrow to come. So now I want to go and I want to look at what Yahweh Shah said, as well as the Most High said, is when these sorrows come about. What is an Israelite in the truth, as both that young man of the modern time depicted, as well as these Israelites of old depicted. So I want to go to Matthew chapter 10, verse 22. Let's go to Matthew chapter 10, verse 22. And I told y'all to remember this word. Matthew 10 and 22. And Yahweh Shah said this. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that endureth to the end, not momentarily, but all the way till the end. When you heard in that account where he said, abide for a while, endure to the end, from the rooty to the tooty. When these sorrows come, endure to the end. But he that endureth to the end shall be saved. I want to go also to Matthew 24 and 13. Matthew 24 and verse 13. Again, this is Yahweh Shah speaking. And it reads, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So I want to go from there. And I want to go to Mark 13 and 13. Again, this is spoken by Yahweh Shah. So we're going to go to Mark 13 and 13. Again, I promise you, these are all precepts to one another. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. We just read that in Matthew 10 and 22, as well as Matthew 24 and 13. But now I want to go And this is all in the New Testament. And we've been in the New Testament, the Old Testament, and the Apocrypha. Now I want to go back to the Old Testament. And I want to go to Ezekiel chapter 22 and verse 14. Ezekiel 22 and 14. And it reads, can thine heart, and this is from the Most High, asking you a question, asking you, Israel, asking you a question. Can thine heart endure, or can thine hands be strong? In the days that I shall deal with thee, I, the Lord, have spoken it and will do it. Remember I said the separating of the wheat from the tare? If you are preparing for salvation, if you are willing to endure to the end, if you are showing the works and the faith, you endure these sorrows, and they will come, and they will come heavy, and they will become more often. It's like we read back in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. The things that you're seeing happening right now, they are the beginning of sorrows. Just the beginning. Jacob's trouble is real. Endure. Jacob's trouble is to come. Endure. Because per Yahweh, as well as his Father, the Most High, he that endure, that shows the works, hath faith, he that endureth sorrow shall be saved. So Israel, again, in regards to Queen Valerie, I do ask that you all be charitable. The link to her GoFundMe is in the description. In regards to the Princess Joniah, and I noticed this while I was doing this lesson. I reached out to the whole nation and asked, in regards to Princess Joniah, if you know of her whereabouts or the possibility of her whereabouts, in the description you'll find points of contact to get that, to get that word to the correct people. But the one thing I never did, and this I didn't do this, Princess Joniah, if this truth for thought should come before, I'm asking of you, please contact your family. With that, Israel, I do ask you again, to what cause are you in this truth? And I want you to really think about it and be real with yourself. It's your brother Marcus. Be it the Most High will. Until next time, I bid you shalom.